Good morning. It is November 12th. I want to welcome everybody to this morning's committee hearing. This is a special meeting today. Madam Clerk, you see, I'm having my height challenges today.
Oh, okay, good.
Excellent.
I thought Dion was going to bring me a phone book to sit on. But anyway, we're having we have a special meeting today. Why don't you, having a little, we're having technical difficulties.
Hello, do you hear me now?
Try this one, sir. Sorry. Let me turn it up.
No problem. This one's same kind of. Okay, now that the city attorney's here, we can begin. We were waiting on your presence. All right, this is the Rules and Election Committee. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. What I'd like to do is we have some items that we're going to be on today's consent calendar, but I have cards. So I want to start off and have you read the item that pertains to our commissioner.
And that would be agenda item number 1, and that is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Ana Teresa Dahan to the City Ethics Commission.
Okay, wonderful. Before I ask Ana to come forward, I have one card. Mr. Herman, 1 minute.
Good morning. Good morning. Residents of Los Angeles, I must speak this appropriate way and manner in communication with the fine young lady Ana Teresa Dahan from Israel, who's been appointed by the mayor. And we all, well, thank you, Mr. Weezer, for participating, because in the letter of
Stay on
address,
the subject.
I understand and notice that you're supposed to be a part of this appointment. And I'm glad to see you here this morning, rubbing off that
Just stay on
beautiful
the.
face of yours for your reelection. However,
Okay,
the point
now
of
wait a minute. I'm going to stop you. Mr. Herman, stop his time. I'm going to warn you one time. You stay on the item. I am not going, and what you're doing is playing games this morning. I'm not going to do it. We have a great lady to be appointed, so stay on the item. Now, you don't want to stay on the item. I'm going to give the city attorney a heart attack. So I'm going to tell you, you go off topic. You're going to sit down. Sergeants, be ready. On topic.
So the rules of the City Ethics Commission will be followed as of we the residents demand ethically and morally that you do not be swayed and enticed and bribed by any action that will protect the residents of Los Angeles and any persons from their civil rights when it comes to the communication of your appointment throughout the city of Los Angeles under the Ethics Commission.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I could have our commissioner to come forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
And it's my understanding that you may have some family members with you today.
I do. I have my mother and my grandmother.
Where's Mom? And congratulations in advance.
Thank you. My uncle and my aunt and my cousin and a fellow ethics commissioner who happened to be a professor of mine at Loyola Law School. Jessica
Good to
Levinson.
see you.
And a law school friend, Kelly Cochran, and more family making its way up from the parking.
Well, you're all welcome. We're glad to see you. We're so excited about your appointment. It's my understanding, members, just as an aside, that they had a new addition to their family that was born yesterday on my birthday.
Yeah.
So that's, I am lucky, all right? Noah.
Noah Antonio.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you think that this is a good fit for you?
Thank you. Well, I am born and raised here in Los Angeles, a proud Angelino. I'm very excited for this opportunity to serve our great city, which I will say I do have one bias, and that bias is I think Los Angeles is the best city in the world. That said, I look forward to serving the city that I love so much. My background is I spent a lot of time in education reform at LAUSD. I worked at all levels as a staff member in the Facility Services Division. I worked for school board member Mike Lansing, and my last position there was under Superintendent Ramon Cortinez as a special assistant. Since then, I also worked at the California Charter Schools Association, and I also had my own consulting practice where I worked with charter schools and also at the time Mayor Villaraigosa's partnership schools, helping with strategy and how to improve their schools and so forth. And I think that my background has really been strengthened over the last 2 years. I'm a student at Loyola Law School, where I have focused on election law and campaign finance law. I've also had experience working on several campaigns. Most recently, I had worked on Councilwoman Mary Martinez's campaign.
Wonderful.
I also participated in the mayor's campaign. So I have enjoyed being a civic participant in the voting process and encouraging others to vote. And I look forward to bringing to the Ethics Commission a practical experience as a voter, a young voter, hoping to encourage others to vote and get involved, and to just celebrate our city and restore the faith, which I think many of us already have in our elected system.
Well, thank you very much. Commissioner Levinson, I don't want to put you on the spot, but did you want to say anything, or do you want me to just handle it? Because you're surely welcome. And she's nifty.
This is the reason I go to yoga class, right?
Okay, well,
So-
it's working.
I just want to say that I couldn't be prouder that Anna was one of my star students, and I can't think of a better colleague, and I know she's going to be incredibly thoughtful, and I know she takes this so seriously, and it's honestly my honor to be able to serve with her, and I think she'll be fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Questions, members? Mr. Labange?
I just want to congratulate you and especially your family, and let you know after this committee is done, you'll have a little free time, and you must take them up to the tower at the top of City Hall and overlook at this beautiful city. What high school did you go to?
Belmont High School.
Oh, wow. I don't know, Mr. President. That's our rival. I went to Marshall, but I love Belmont. I used to date a girl from Belmont, so that's a long time ago. But anyway,
Prettiest and the smartest.
it's a very good school, and that the fact that you have such great support, and your family's here, and the commissioner staff's here. So congratulations. Look forward to working with you. But in the meantime, after this committee meeting, please take time to go up to the tower for your mom and your grandma. That's very special. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Labange, who won your senior year between Belmont and Marshall
It
football?
was a tie. It was a tie.
It was a tie. Do you remember Anna, your senior year?
Belmont.
Belmont won. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, thank you. And I actually enjoyed working with you when I was on the Board of Education, and we did a lot of work together there. You were passionate and committed to your work there as well, and I'm sure you do the same on this commission. So thank you for your willingness to serve on this commission.
Thank you.
Let's see. Hey, I think I'm back in action. Okay. We were sharing a microphone. Okay, there are no more questions. Without objection, we will recommend that this committee will recommend to the full council that we accept your appointment. So without objection, that'll be the order.
Great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Only one more hurdle to jump. And again, family, congratulations to each and every one of you. Okay, let's move on to in fact, to make it official, then without objection, we will recommend Ms. Dahan to the full city council to be heard at today's meeting at 10 a.m. So without objection, that's the order. Let's now go through the other cards. And so what would be next, Madam Clerk?
Item number 2, the city attorney report and an ordinance relative to an amendment to the city's election code to allow processing of vote-by-mail ballots postmarked by Election Day and received within 3 days after Election Day.
Well, wonderful. And this is part of the council's move to increase voter turnout. And so we're very proud of this recommendation, which came from the Municipal Election Reforms Commission. Mr. Herman, I have a card, and this is item 2.
As many citizens of Los Angeles are well aware, and the many that still don't approve of this Section 1014 return for vote ballot under Section 412 changes of election code, in light of the moratorium, and the city attorney will agree with me that the citizens of Los Angeles should not be bribed to vote, should not have an extended time to vote, because within the time arrangements, knowing the process of voting, every person in Los Angeles knows where, when, and the time to go and vote. But to seduce us and bribe us to accommodate the ballot return envelopes within 3 days, even after we voted, is ridiculous.
With a stamp?
Yeah, to strengthen the city laws. If you don't got the money to vote and you can't walk in and vote, then don't bother to vote whatsoever at all. Thank you.
Okay. On this item, I don't see any cards, or not any additional cards, no comments from the committee, so why don't we adopt the city attorney's report and the draft ordinance? So without objection, that'll be the order on that item. That brings us where, Madam Clerk?
To item number 3.
Okay.
Which is a City Ethics Commission report relative to proposed recommendations for amending the campaign finance ordinance to improve the laws regarding office holder and legal defense committees.
Okay, I have another card from Mr. Herman. So Heather, before I get to you, I'm going to have the public comment. Mr. Herman, item 3. And it's always a pleasure to see you. Item 3.
As we all wish and hope to strengthen city laws, we find out that the ethics commissions at times, and I say it at times along with the city attorney, don't propose the recommendations by these amendments in the ordinance that they are approved. They have little or no regard to the office holders due to the fact that they take these legal defense committees out of the arrangements and the amendments that we, the elected public, have always wanted to see, that there is ethic control on these violations. So don't say to us that we have a legal defense committee when the city attorney pays out large sums of amount when it comes to laws, suits, Dion, as you shake your head. But in conclusion, I say no, I'm against it.
I let it go, Dion. I just let it go. Okay, any questions? So on this item, without objection, we'll adopt the Ethics Commission report as amended. But I have Heather here. So Heather, why don't you just give us a quick two-second overview. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Heather Holt for the Ethics Commission. It's always a pleasure to be here with you as well. The Ethics Commission has made a series of recommendations to the existing office holder committee laws and legal defense committee laws. Those provisions have been in the law for decades at this point, and this was the first thorough substantive review of those laws in about 11 years, since 2003. The key recommendations have to do with adjusting the contribution limits and the overall spending and fundraising limits that apply. Those were not adjusted for CPI in 2012 when other limits in the law were adjusted, and so the commissioners recommend bringing those into alignment with the other limits and treating them with CPI adjustments as the other limits are as well. There are other organizational and clarification types of recommendations. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about specific recommendations. It sounds like we're ready to move on, and I don't want to hinder the process, but I'm happy to provide any information that would be helpful.
I want to thank all of the commission for its hard work. It's a good commission, and now you should be at full.
Yes, we have 5
Capacity.
commissioners. Yes, it's a good thing.
So I look forward to coming before the commission and having a conversation with them like we do from time to time. City Attorney, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. President. Renee Stahl from the City Attorney's Office. Just to note that in addition, we, since the campaign finance ordinance was adopted a couple months ago, we noticed a few clerical errors, and
Okay.
I just wanted to note for the record that we would like to make those very clerical changes to the campaign finance ordinance, and you have a copy of that.
Okay, so maybe I can get the clerk, Erica, maybe you can, the amendments to this, if you could read them into the record.
Yes, the amendments being proposed are relative to the post-service activity, amending one amendment to allow the office holder committees to be closed or redesignated within 180 days. Another amendment to surplus funds, allowing legal defense committees to be closed within 180 days. Another to surplus funds, to provide that surplus funds may be returned to contributors. Behested payments, amendment to allow payments made by a person to a third party at the behest of an office holder to be disclosed if the person's behested payments total $5,000 or more. And another amendment to fundraising and expenditure limits to amend the cap for City Council office holder committees to $93,000 per fiscal year, and to cap expenditures for citywide office holder committees to $150,000 per fiscal year. And then the technical changes requested by the City Attorney.
Okay, Mr. Weezer had a couple of quick ones, Heather, so if you could stay put.
Absolutely.
Thank you. One of the proposed changes for the office holder account is that fundraising will not be permitted during the blackout period, correct? And
Yes.
currently, it is permitted. Now, what was the rationale for this proposal?
Yes, there is, as you know, there is a blackout period that applies to office holder committees for office holders who are running for reelection, and it lasts approximately the 4 months from candidate filing week through the date of the election. You're right that currently the law does not prohibit fundraising into an office holder account during that time period. The commissioners did recommend that that be prohibited under the same principle that governs the restriction on certain types of expenditures from the office holder account during the blackout period. The goal is to eliminate any sort of perceived, any perception that the campaign contribution limits are being circumvented by one person giving to both a campaign committee and an office holder committee in the same period of time immediately prior to an election.
But if there are restrictions on, and I'm just kind of thinking aloud here with you,
Yeah.
if the restrictions are set so that the expenditures, certain expenditures are allowed or not allowed, isn't that really the backstop? Because we're really not supposed to get into the intent of the donor as to why they even gave. So whether they're giving for, hey, I'm giving to your office holder because there are certain expenditures you have there that are allowed by law and that we want you to do during the blackout period, versus, hey, I'm giving to your campaign because I want you to win for re-election. So really, I think it's on the back end that we should be concerned about and control how we spend the money, not how we're giving the money. That's one concern I have. And
Yeah.
how do you, I mean, is that?
That's a fair point, and that is definitely the reason that the limits on expenditures exist during the campaign or during the blackout period, is so that expenditures don't feel more like they're campaigning than performing office holder duties. But the commissioners felt that the flip side of the coin is also in terms of the fundraising, limiting the fundraising as well, because of the perception for the public that when you give twice to a candidate, that seems to be like you're exceeding the campaign contribution limits, and maybe doesn't need to happen for those 4 months. It's sort of like the Ethics Commission's approach in general, which is we try desperately on the front end, but we also, to help people comply, we also have back-end measures that we need to employ as well from time to time.
And offhand, do you know if is debt in the office holder account, how long we have to pay that back?
I don't believe that there is any restriction in the law in terms of timeframes on paying back the debt. I know that for legal defense committees, they can remain open until the debt is paid, the debt that is associated with the reason for the establishment of the committee. There's no provision that's different from that for the office holder committees. However, the recommendation here, which from the commissioners, was that the committees be closed or redesignated within 90 days after an elected official leaves office, and I believe that the amendment is to make that 180 days.
And I asked that long question because it's related to my first question, which is if there are 4, maybe 6 months of prohibition to fundraise for your office holder committee, and then we shorten the time as to when you can repay debt, it's going to put an office holder in a bind if you're running for re-election. And so I'm not quite convinced that this is the right way to go. And sometimes, oftentimes, we don't think of the whole picture and we're making these rules and how one affects the other. And I'm just kind of having trouble this settling when we're prohibiting for fundraising for office holders when there are rules about how we could expend that. If we have concerns about the perception about how this may be related to a campaign, well, we control that by how the expenditure will be made, I think, rather than upfront. It just doesn't seem like we're getting at the concern or the
Yeah,
rationale.
and the expenditure restrictions during the blackout period are definitely designed for that purpose. And you're right, if someone is running for re-election and fails to be re-elected, then the combination of the blackout period and the 180-day limit after leaving office, that would be a restriction on fundraising activity for that individual.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chair, if I could, add to the amendments that we go back to the original section on this, that fundraising is permitted during the blackout period, and I'll be happy to speak with our commission and the commissioners. When is this coming to council?
Today.
Oh, it's today.
Oh, no, wait,
No,
when
no.
is it?
Tuesday.
It's 2 weeks, so.
Okay, fine. And in that interim, if I'm gonna have other discussions, and
Sure.
I'll be happy to go back to the original suggested changes, but for right now, I would like to recommend that we stick to the original fundraising is permitted during the blackout period. And then if we, in the interim, if I get good, if it makes sense to me and
No,
have
I
a
get
more
that.
thorough conversation, I'd be happy to go back to the
Yeah, we'd be
proposal.
happy to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We'll just give ourselves a week or so to try to work out some of your concerns. It would appear that we do have time. So what I think I want to do is maybe we just hold it for right now. We'll keep it in committee, and then we'll work this out.
Okay.
Fair enough?
That sounds very fair.
So I thank you very, very much. Let's move forward to what item, Miss Clerk?
That brings us to item number 4, which is a resolution, Fuentes Blumenfield, and a CLA report relative to supporting the city's solar incentive program and portfolio content Category 1 eligibility.
Okay, let's, I have a card, Mr. Herman.
Good morning. As of October 17th, 2014, the resolution for the greenhouse gases, its policies, enforcements, and proposal pending due to federal and state litigation. We are well aware that the solar incentive program rules are by far unethical to the rules for its compliance. Greenhouse gases continue to spew out throughout the city of Los Angeles, and more so, if you heard in the news this weekend, the San Gabriel Mountains are congested with smog and pollution due to the incorporated areas of the city of Los Angeles for not having control of the greenhouse gas effect. Such an agency must first begin and adopt for renewable energy, not by ineffective development, but rather to increase in the greenhouse gas provisions through local renewable energy and not waste taxpayers' dollars on bullshit. Thank you.
All right, so on this item, Mr. Weezer, I will recommend that we adopt the CLA report and resolution, and unless you have some concerns where it relates to that, without objection, that'll be the order. Madam Clerk, I think do we have one more item?
Yes, there's one last item on the agenda this morning, item number 5, which is a CLA report relative to the proposed 2015 council recess schedule.
Okay, well, do you have any concerns where it relates to this, Mr. Weezer?
No, I do not.
Okay, so then, without objection, we will adopt the CLA report where it relates to item 5. Is there any additional business before this committee? Any additional business?
That completes all the business this morning.
Then this committee is adjourned, and we will see you guys in about 34 minutes in council. Anyway, this committee is adjourned.